Alrighty, let's see how this works. I couldn't get the settings right. So currently I'm in my shed, I'm working on a new episode, and I want to test this live streaming thing. Otherwise I'm so lonely by myself in a garden shed. So currently I'm filming an episode that's somewhere in between a tool review and a project car episode. What I'm doing, I have bought a soldering project. Won't share much details, so you have to watch the episode to learn what I'm making. I don't want to spoil that episode just yet, but anyway, just want to go ahead and start working. And if there are any questions, I'll read the comments. I have the laptop right beside me, so if you have any questions, I can work and answer your questions in the meantime. So let's get off. Let's get wires untangled before I fry my fingers. Oh, the camera dropped down, so whoop. Let's not forget to record this episode. Yeah, I'm just checking the camera. There's a delay in what I can see on the video and on the screen. Maybe more convenient if I had a laptop in my line of sight. There we are. Oh yeah, and my listening glasses on. Otherwise I cannot see those tiny things. And let me know if the noise in the background is too much. I can that's my heater, so I can dial it down. So let's look at the instructions. So over here we have to start off by soldering in a bunch of resistors. This is a Chinese soldering kit. So basically what I did, I bought a new soldering station, and I let's that off. And I bought a soldering kit just to practice my soldering, and I have a new soldering station. So let's start with the 10K resistors. Really don't have much experience building those kits, but this is a pretty useful soldering kit. About a lot of other kits which I've been soldering off camera. I can show you one of them. Is this small, well, reorganized a bit. Is this small LED clock? I bought a couple of these. It was fun. It's a fun and pretty useful soldering project. So let's put that aside. This is the first one to go in. And there are different methods. I learned a lot of people put in the components and then solder everything all at once, but I like to go one by one. So there's the 10K resistor. Let's clean the tip. Let's see if it gets up to temperature. There it is. I'm going to change tips, by the way. I've been practicing with this soldering kit earlier, last couple of weeks. I really like this knife edge tip. Not sure if you can see it on camera. was something beeping. Don't know why that was. Anyway, the tip. And we have a bunch of 10K resistors. What? 10K, 100K. 3 of them. What I also like to do is that I cut off the leads just after soldering it, so I don't cut myself in my fingers yet. Alrighty, now we have 100K resistors. And you know they have those, not sure if the camera will pick this up, those tiny colored bands that show the value of a resistor. And I like to put them in the same direction, so component placement looks a bit neat, so to speak. And then goes the last one. Convenient thing about the soldering station is once you have it in its hole or in its bracket, it lowers down the temperature to 200 degrees, and when you pick it up, it immediately, very fast, warms up to the set temperature. And I currently have it set to 370 degrees Celsius. This time I cannot bring the conversion in screen, so you have to do that by yourself. I'm looking at my soldering blobs, and I'm not too happy with the way they look. They're really blobby, so to speak. And there is flux in this solder, but it doesn't flow all too nice. It's better. Coming in for the second time, make sure it bonds neatly to the pad on the circuit board. And it's getting better. I said this is a tip with a knife edge, and you can really have to make contact with the pad on the circuit board itself to get some heat in there. And now I got that right. Cut off the leads. Now I got it right. Now it flows out much better. Well, I'm doing this in order to practice my soldering skills. I want to do that because I'm working more and more on those Lexus LS400 ECUs. Got them sent in from, well, all across Europe now. A couple from Belgium, a couple from Spain, some from Switzerland coming in. And I just want to do the best job possible. Let me see. Now we have a 1K resistor, which I cannot find. It's 5K. It is pretty clear, I must say. 2K, 100K. And it also says on the board 2K. It's this one. Oh, set up this. No responses just yet. forgot what this one was. It was a 2K, I believe. Compare the color codes. Yeah. 2K goes there. Yeah. Just checking if you're still recording. Hi, Mike. Good to see you. Welcome aboard. I just mentioned you, Mike, in the recording of this episode. So there will be a head tip to you coming to this project. Whoa. Alrighty, what do we have next? A 1K resistor, which I have a whole bunch of. Usually you start working from the inside out. You also have to be careful. There will be an IC over here, but sometimes there are some components that fed in from the other side that you put those in first and solder them in, because once you have this on, you can't reach the pads on that side. Okay, that was a 1K, and 1K goes over there. Even though this is a fairly simple kit, it requires a lot of attention. Yeah, good to see you too. So I just switched off my electric heater, but it's getting cold in here. But I'll struggle through for you. Righto. Is that neat enough? Yeah, that's neat enough. 47K. It's a fairly high quality kit with a very nicely made circuit board. All the positions on the circuit board are marked, so you can see the value of the component that goes on there. So basically you could do without that building instruction. I need a piece of solder or tin. Normally I use a suction device to get rid of all those vapors over here, but now I can use it, otherwise you couldn't hear me. So I hold my breath once my big nose is above it. Alrighty. Now we have 10K. 10K resistors. Indeed, Mike, it's not a job you can really rush. It's fun to do, and well, I suppose I'm not sure if I can get it finished this evening. So I just wanted to try this live stream thing and not be alone in my shed. At least have some company of you guys. But indeed, I don't want to rush it. Just take my time. But I have been practicing with other kids off camera, soldering kids that is, and yeah, I'm starting to get a hang of it, especially getting to know the temperature and the solder you're using. I built another kit and I thought I needed to use flux, but this is a core wire, flux core wire, so really didn't need to use to. So I ended up with quite neat soldering pads, soldering joints, I mean, but the entire back of the PCB was smeared in flux and was pretty hard to get rid of. Of course, there's a solution for everything. Those solutions cost money too. I really needed to get out of the into the shed and get away from my desk today. I had a lot of thinking to do. I'm working on an article on diagnosis and modern cars. I'm a moderator of a large mechanics forum, the largest mechanics forum in the Netherlands. And we also gain a lot of attention from mechanics outside the Netherlands. So we're becoming more and more international. And yeah, you see some pretty interesting things. And I currently writing on an article. It's a 4-page article, 3,000 words, so from the top of my head. And I really have to, well, be selective in what I can put in and what not. There's a lot to tell, especially with modern cars. And yeah, never ceases to amaze me what happens with modern cars, even within factory warranty. So in a nutshell, I've done a lot of thinking today to get my article up and running, so to speak. And yeah, there's a lot of thinking involved. And well, I have to live with neurological damage. So in the evening hours, I like to get out in the shed. Summertime I go out riding my bike, and in the wintertime, I hide in my shed and do these kinds of projects. Anyway, let's carry on. Otherwise, yours truly won't finish his job. This was a 1K. Let me show the colors. I have the memory of a goldfish. I pick up one part and I forget what the value is. Indeed, Mike, a change of scenery is always good. I must say, I did a long walk in the afternoon after lunch. That's one of the perks of being self-employed. If you don't want to, you can quit momentarily. You're not bound to office hours, which I enjoy. And the weather cleared up this afternoon, so I went for a long walk, an hour, 5.5 kilometers. That was good. And while you're walking, you can do a lot of writing, mental writing, so that also helped with my article. And we had some important automotive news, especially when you're like me, specialized into the Japanese brands. Suzuki today unveiled their first electric car, the e-Vitara. That was news that came in late this afternoon, so I had to write a small article on that. Interesting car, I must say. It's being produced in India, so that's well, of course, Suzuki has plants in India, but they are starting to produce for the world market. The e-Vitara will come to Europe, and it's intended for the Japanese domestic market and also the Indian market. And even though it's called an e-Vitara, it's a completely new car on a new electric platform. So only in name, it has some family bonds to the existing Vitara, but other than that, It's a completely new car, and production will start in spring next year, as said, in India, and it will arrive on the European markets in summer next year. So really curious to see what that's going to do. And speaking about electric cars, last week I was in Germany, in the northern part, Ostfriesland, and we passed a town called Emden, where Volkswagen has a huge plant, but it remains to be seen if that plant is open next year, because Volkswagen totally missed the boat when it comes to electric cars, and they're paying a high price for that. I'm not sure if it's only because of their electric cars. The ID3 wasn't the best car to begin with, same was for the ID4. A lot of software problems, and but I think it started earlier, and during the Dieselgate scandal. It got them in trouble. That got them into trouble. Alrighty, more resistors, 1K down there. Yeah, indeed, Mike. Once I've been at my desk for 2 hours, especially writing and searching things and thinking, you really need to get away from the desk and the computer. It's absolutely true. I'm sorry that everything is in vertical mode. I tried to set it to horizontal mode, but for some reason or another, I couldn't manage. I'm not that tech savvy, I must admit. But we learn while we go. How is my soldering? Well, not all that great. But I learn while I go. And I need better cutters. I just discovered this is my standard cheap cutter pliers, but they're a bit too large for this kind of work. So I just learned I need to buy precision cutters. That's on my wish list for next week. It looks like I have a lot of spare resistors. I think I have almost every resistor soldered in right now. Now come the capacitors. What do we have there? That funky component. It's this thing. I thought it was a connector of sorts. It has a marking on there, like a small IC. It reads A103J. Not sure what that is. We'll learn anytime soon. It goes in there. There's a marking. Yes, it has a marking, so it's a directional component. One of the things you need to learn is a tiny little dot on this side over here. Same as with capacitors, they are directional, at least the electrolytic capacitors are. So let's tinker that in. Well, I maybe can do that later, otherwise I'm a bit in the way of my own work. Let's start off with capacitors. 10 microfarads. And negative side is over there. Now, I said in the episode that I just recorded, that's something that you didn't see in this live stream. I bought a soldering kit because one of the larger electronics channel on YouTube gave this a bad review, but his soldering was worse than mine is, and well, I thought for me it may work out just fine, and I think it does. I paid like 49 euros for it. It has a temperature setting, it has some presets for different kind of soldering jobs. It's called channels, but there's my alarm clock. That means it's 8 o'clock. This is also a 10 microfarad. Oh, well, let's look up close to make sure that I did not bridge the pads. No, I didn't. These are very close together. And that one's nice. You often clean the tip of your soldering iron. As you can see, I'm wearing my listening glasses. This is for reading and screen related work, computer screen related work. My eyesight has gone pretty bad over the years. Yeah, I really need better cutters. So I'll clean up these solder joints later on, I promise. Okay, now we have another 10 microfarad capacitor. Yeah, thank you, Google. Well, it's true that screen gave you lazy eyes, but I have glasses normally for, not sure how you call it in English, but looking far ahead. It was pretty bad since I was 8. I couldn't tell the difference between my mom and dad. And my dad is this tall and my mom is this tall, but I couldn't see it. So I got glasses when I was 8 years old. But in the meantime, it grew worse over the years. And just recently, I had trouble with my computer screen and reading and doing this kind of finicky stuff. I was up close with my nose, and it happened earlier this year. I was soldering, and I wanted to look up close. I had my glasses off, but I put a soldering iron on the tip of my nose, and that wasn't fun. So I decided it was time for better glasses, which I got in August. Yeah, there it is. Let me try these cutters. I was in a town a year ago, and they had this big outlet store with a buy, I'll say, the cheaper kind of tools, and I bought a kit of those tiny little pliers, and I thought I used it last time. I just want to cut. I can cut closer to the circuit board, so I'm gonna stick with that. Okay, that's the small capacitors in. Now do the ceramic capacitors, and those are non-directional. How do you call it? They don't have to be connected to a polarity, so you can just throw these ceramic capacitors in basically, just as long as you work some kind of neatly. There they are. these parts are so easy to lose. That's why I always am very tidy in my tiny little shed. If anything falls on the floor, it's easy to trace them down. But I lost a clock chip recently while I was building one of those clock kits, and I haven't been able to find it back again. And I have a floor in here. It comes from a workshop slash laboratory. It's a acid resistant floor, and you can seal it up with some kind of use these kinds of sealers, special sealer. I haven't done that, but I used to have with concrete tile floor, those 30 centimeter by 30 centimeter tiles. A lot of things fell into the gaps, so I lost a lot of smaller screws and components. I was rebuilding a carburetor, for instance. You have those tiny little jets, smaller than these. When they fall into those tracks, you'll never find them again unless you pull the entire floor out. So I bought this from a demolition company, actually. It's an expensive floor, but I got it for cheap, and I'm very happy with it. It's easy to keep clean, and if you drop something on the floor, it's easy to find it again. There we are. Now we have this tiny little, and the writing is so small on there. Does it say 102? It's my best guess. Where do these fit in? Huh. Nanofarad. There are 1 nanofarad capacitors mentioned. Yeah, 102 is a marking. I see it in the building instructions. They have a marking 102, but they have a value of 1 nanofarad. This is minute, but just follow the instructions and see how it goes. I had another idea for a video, but I'm not sure if it's wise for me to publish that video. Next to my job as an editor for Car Tech magazine, which is aimed at mechanics and automotive engineers, I must say. Every now and then do what's called an expertise. And I do that for different customers. Oftentimes they're car leasing companies, parts suppliers, and car insurers, where you have an expensive or complex technical damage. Oftentimes it's drivetrain. I specialize in drivetrains, and just recently I got a call from a customer or potential customer. He had a 3-year-old car just out of warranty. It had some serious mileage or kilometers on it, 180,000 kilometers. Let's say 110,000 miles. As said, the car was just out of warranty, but the engine was completely worn down and needed replacement, and he got a quote for 15,000 euros to have the engine replaced. And well, that's quite steep for a car that was 70,000 euros 3 years ago. So I looked into that, and well, it was pretty obvious, because when that potential customer called me, he told that his car had a service according to that maintenance schedule, twice a year, every 30,000 kilometers. So he drove about 60,000 kilometers a year. And well, every 30,000 kilometers, car got an oil change in maintenance. And yeah, that already tells me that the change intervals are way too long. But some manufacturers try to pull it off and hope the car lasts throughout its warranty period. And this car just barely did. And I thought, yeah, I can do a video on that subject, but yeah, you run the risk of, well, I wouldn't say exposing my client or the car brand, but it comes a risk with that. But it's something that I see a lot lately, also in the day job as a moderator for the car mechanics forum. A lot of cars come into the so-called universal, so non-dealer or brand-related workshops, and they have maintenance according to the manufacturer's prescriptions, and those maintenance oil change intervals are way too long, and then you end up with a car that's just barely out of warranty, and you can replace the engine. So that's, yeah, loss of oil quality. My own car, my daily driver, has a maintenance interval of 20,000 kilometers, but I lowered that to 15,000. But yeah, that really has an effect on the mechanics, the inner mechanics of the engine. And it's really beyond me why manufacturers stick to that, because I see it a lot nowadays. So I had an idea of doing a video on that. And on the other hand, you have the American YouTube channels, the Oil Geek, Car Carnold, saying that you need to change your oil every 5,000 kilometers. Yeah, to me that's way too soon. So yeah, what's the right maintenance interval? When do you need to change your oil? So not sure what I'm going to do with that. But anyway, that kept me occupied last week, contacting the brand and contacting the oil company, saying that it should work, but it obviously didn't. So we have this little capacitor over here. It lives there. Whoa. It's also non-directional. I think you did a smart thing, Mike. Yeah. I did some math and I said, what was it? I think just over 9,000 kilometers for an oil change. It was in the video on the Nissan Juke, I believe. I saw the little sign on the door card. Next maintenance, it's 2 years and then 30,000 kilometers. But I'm pretty sure that you'll damage your engine before it gets its first oil change. Now you really need to do that more often. I do the same with my car. It's a small 3-cylinder naturally aspirated engine with only 66 horsepower. So you know a bit about cars, that tells you that it's either a Kia Picanto or a Hyundai i10, and it's the Hyundai. I recently went to Austria with our daughter, and we did 3,500 kilometers in a couple of days. That's a lot of Autobahn driving, and it's basically too slow for the Autobahn, but on weekdays when there's a lot of trucks on the road, the speed on the Autobahn is a bit lower, so I don't worry too much going on the Autobahn. But the little engine has to work very hard. I must say fuel economy is great. My average fuel economy was 1 liter every 21 kilometers. So I can do the miles miles per gallon calculation right now. The 21 kilometers on a liter is pretty neat for a non-hybrid car. But then again, there's a lot of thermal and mechanical load on the car. So for every Autobahn or highway kilometer I drive, I deduct 2 for the maintenance interval. So when I have it set to currently 12,000 kilometer intervals, that's what I always do, and I do the oil changes myself. Well, I now deduct 7,000 kilometers from that interval. Just count the Autobahn miles as double for the oil changes. Yeah. Okay, and an LED goes in there. Oh, I didn't show you, but lastly I destroyed an LED. I wanted to test it and had my power supply set to 5 volt, and I thought I was safe there, but I wasn't. And well, that's interesting. The LED, of course, has a polarity, and there's a flattened side on an LED, and it's tiny. I can barely see it. But if you look close up on the circuit board, not sure if I can point at it, but it's there. There are two pluses on the on the circuit board. So yeah, indeed, 60 miles per gallon. So that's pretty darn good, Mike. Yeah, and burning LEDs is pretty bad too. But what I did, let me show you. When I ordered those soldering kits at my soldering station, I ordered a whole bunch of LEDs. But that's what you have with Chinese LEDs. I ordered them for a 5 volt circuit, which is this. But when I tested it, I had all 2 volt LEDs, so they're unusable for me right now. But uh, that's what you get with AliExpress. So I'll put in another order. And I think I'll put the LED in last. Once I have the circuit powered up, I use the multimeter to check the polarity on the circuit board. So let's skip the LED for now. Now we have crystal, 12,000 hertz that goes in. Oh, 12,000 megahertz it is. Sorry. Yeah, no, my soldering is getting better. I believe the tip was a bit dirty. Let me show you up close. I don't believe I showed my new soldering station, but here it is. Oh, it's currently heating. Normally when you put it in here, it cools down to 200 degrees. It has 4 channels, and each channel represents a temperature setting. It has this little sponge in here, and also this, well, it's brass shavings to clean the tip, and I learned that cleaning the tip is very important. You know, just up to a couple of years ago, I cleaned the tip with my steel wire brush. That wasn't a good idea, and every time the tip was worn, I just grinded it down with my bench grinder. Look, I have this mechanism over here so I can hook it in. That's what you have to do on a 2 by 3 meter garden shed. Anyway, let's get myself into frame again. Okay, that little crystal is now soldered in. It's connected to the side. Okay. Now come the transistors. Are those the same? And it appears they are. They have different numbers on them. Okay, little spoiler alert. I bought 2 of those kits, and I already made one. And I just assumed that those transistor-like thingies were the exact same, but it appears they have different numbers, and apparently they have different functions. So that might explain why the prototype version doesn't work. So this is 9014, and that one goes in there. And I bend the legs a little bit, make sure it doesn't fall through. I'm gonna check off camera once I quit a live stream if that's the mistake I made the previous time. Yeah, that heater mic is well, it's working well. I currently have it switched off, so I don't have too much noise over here. But I also have this old kerosene heater in there. It works nice. But you really have to ventilate well. It can easily warm up my little shed. But you have well, it burns quite clean. But you get a distinct smell, and after a while, you yourself don't smell it. But once I get into the house, I get complaints from the missus that I stink of kerosene. So I always shower afterwards when I've been in the shed and I have that thing burning. And I also have a dehumidifier here. And in the door behind me is a small bathroom ventilator you have in rooms where you can shower. When I have the kerosene heater on, I have those ventilation systems running. I must say, especially the dehumidifier works great in this little garden shed, because as you can see, I have a lot of stuff in here, a lot of tools, a lot of metal tools, and they tend to rust, especially in wintertime. But when I have the dehumidifier running, nothing really goes wrong. I'm gonna quit recording for a while now because I'm gonna make a time lapse of it. And now I have 30 minutes. How far are we in? Oh, 45 minutes of time-lapse material. I can see I'm completely out of frame. For 170 farad, and that's this one. So this is a really short capacitor, and it's so short that the writing on the plastic on the outside is barely readable. I'm going to take a gamble. Yeah. Look at the building instructions. It should go in like this. Now you can see by the size of the print on there that this is the one that should fit. This is the last capacitor left, so I'm pretty sure this is the one that should go in there. Probably up the temperature. I really like this knife edge tip on the soldering iron, because you can really put a lot of heat into the pad. It covers the pad really nice. So there's an on-off switch. Do we have here? Oh yeah, there's a button that goes in there. So we have two buttons. Yeah, let's put in those tiny clickety buttons. Yeah, they are both the same. So did I already tell what this is going to be? Let me get a small screwdriver so I can push one of the leads over to fix it in place. Well, let's push all the leads over. I want these buttons to be nice and straight, nicely close to the circuit board. Put it upside down. Support it like this. It's a bit wobbly, perhaps with this button. Let's give this a try. Let me see if I'm happy with this. Yeah, it's nice and close to the circuit board. So always careful with those button things because there's a lot of plastic in there. You get too much heat in there, the inner parts, those tiny little buttons start to melt. Ask me how I know. Sorry, I thought we froze for a moment. I looked at the screen. Yeah, Mike, how do you know that those buttons melt so easily? Yeah. So, second button going in. I was a volunteer at a so-called repair cafe. That's something that what was it related to church? I'm not especially religious, but I like helping out people. The church over here had a repair cafe where I volunteered for years and did a repair, and I desoldered the button and soldered it back on, but with a too large soldering iron. And I ended up melting that button, causing more damage. So I thought, well, I order a new one. What was the case? It was in a, what was it? A Casio keyboard, music instrument, was fairly expensive, and it was not a button. It was a sliding resistor, so a volume button, or a sliding volume button. And I found one online from Japan. It was shipped, and I had it within 2 days, which was pretty fast. And the part itself cost like 15 euros, but with shipping and all, I ended up paying 90 euros. And also at the airport, you had to get through customs, and it was labeled as a specialty electronics part, so I had to pay full price. So yeah, I I learned my lesson with that. Okay, I think I'm gonna put in the last component and call it quits for tonight. And it's getting cold in here. It's like, well, 14 degrees. They have the heater off, so I'm gonna put in the last component, and then I'll finish off tomorrow. Really want to get inside, have a shower, and get some rest. I hope you understand. Yes, there's the large one. That's this component, and that goes in here. It also seems to be a capacitor. It has a bit of an odd shape, and it only has some letter markings on there. It doesn't say how much microfarad it is. And when I look at the building instructions, it appears to be this thing, non-directional. So let's just put that one in. And be careful not to burn my fingers, because this is all I have left from my little strip of solder. I have more on a reel, by the way, so that's not a problem. Okie dokie. So this is what I got in during, well, 15 minutes of soldering. So I'm gonna continue tomorrow. I have a lot of those brackets that hold the ICs, and this is a connector for the screen. And that's pretty finicky to get in straight, and you have to push in the little LCD screen. Can I unpack it? Yeah, I can unpack it for you. Let me get a knife so I can show you. I believe it's a dot matrix display with its own dedicated circuit board. Here it is, and I have to solder the connector on, and if you have that crooked, the display is sitting at an angle and it doesn't fit into the housing, so that's fairly precise. I'm getting a bit tired right now, so I always end up messing up those tasks. So, well, I'm pretty happy with the results so far. In the beginning, my soldering wasn't all too neat, and the leads were a bit long, but using this smaller cutter, things are improving. So, yeah, I think I'm gonna call it quits. I'm gonna clean up my workbench, and well, stay tuned for a future episode. I would say I quit recording right now, and I can see that the microphone batteries are dying too. But anyway, at least I have this footage, albeit in vertical mode. Anyway, thanks for watching, and well, I hope to see you soon. Bye.